Alright, so I just want to show you how quick and easy you can do a stats project. And so without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so the first step of your project is to find an idea that you want to study. So the first thing you want to do here is you start to think of ideas, find something that's important or at least relevant to you, and consider your motivation for doing it. Like, why am I curious about this? What is it that I want to find out more about? Think of it as a way to possibly test an opinion that you have about something. Find something that you can measure easily and something that does not require consent from any individuals. There's a whole part of statistics where you learn about how you conduct a study when individuals are involved, and it's a very important consideration, and it's easier if we just pick something that doesn't require any individual to consent to doing something or to give permission to share their information. Think about how and when you'll measure. Really get into the dirty details of, I have this idea, but I'm not sure how I'm going to measure it. Really try to think through that, but because some ideas are great, they're just hard to measure. And anticipate bias and error. Bias is when you ask your family what they think about how good your brownies are. They're going to tell you that they love you because they're your family, right? Or anticipate error. How could I mess this thing up? Or what possible mistakes could be made? And try to make a plan before you start your data collection to compensate for that. So I've made up a little scenario here to show you what I mean. Alright, so for my little project here, I'm going to check out a label of these lovely Chips Ahoy cookies. So if you look on the back of any package of food, you'll see that it has right there, it tells you that the serving size is 3 cookies, which is 33 grams. Let's just see if that's right. Okay, so what's the point of this? Well, in my case, I actually did this experiment because I wanted to eat cookies, but you do need to have some kind of an idea for why do I want to measure this about these cookies. All right, so maybe you have this kind of conspiracy theory idea that food all around the world is somehow packaged or sold in a way that's misleading to the consumer, and so you want to test if these cookies weigh less than what the package says. Or maybe you're on this diet where you get to eat cookies. It's a pretty cool diet. But anyway, you think the cookies are making you fat because they're bigger than advertised. You budgeted 150 calories and you ate your 3 cookies and somehow you're not losing weight, right? So you might want to test the cookies weigh more than what the package says. In my case, I'm just a curious consumer. I wonder if these cookies actually weigh what they say. This may sound trivial to talk about all this, but you do have to have an idea about your research before you start, because you do want to have what we call a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. We're going to learn that in later sections, but you need to have some idea that people believe that it's this way, or some company tells me that this is the truth, and I have this alternative idea, and here's my alternative idea. Now, how can this go wrong? As we saw in my previous example, in the case of the cookies, what if the cookies are broken when I open them up? Like, how am I going to measure the weight of a broken cookie? What if my scale that I'm using to measure the cookies is not calibrated properly? It's just telling me wrong information. What about the crumbs? I mean, there's inevitably crumbs when you move cookies from one spot to another. Am I losing some weight there? Where does Chips Ahoy make cookies? Do they have different factories? What if my cookies came from one factory and it makes me think that everything's all good, but maybe if you come from a different factory, there's a different result? What if I just got a bad package of cookies? And this happens sometimes with anything, like you buy something and it's just bad and it got through the inspection process and didn't fail. Maybe the cookies got old. Maybe they had less moisture in them due to their age. There's just, as you see, there's a lot of what ifs here. What if this happened? What if this happened? These are the ideas that you need to express to me for your first submission. Alright, so for my project I have my handy dandy little food scale I got on Amazon for less than $10. I have my pen and paper here to take my notes, and I have my cookies. So let's get busy measuring. Alright, so I have collected my data and I'm ready to do some descriptive statistics. I'm going to go and put my data in, so I click Stat and I'm going to do Edit. I'm going to put everything into list 1. So here goes my data. Alright, the data is entered, so I'm going to click Stat, Calc, and I'm going to do one var stats, and then you have to tell it what list you want to do the one variable stats on. And we're going to do list 1. So you can see my mean, x bar is 33. These numbers aren't quite important for us, but we do have standard deviation, which we care about, 0.632. Keep in mind sigma is population standard deviation, so we don't know about all the cookies, but we know about this sample of cookies, so we have to use S. The sample size was 11, which we knew. The minimum was 32. First quartile was 33. The median was 33. The third quartile was 33, and the max was 34. And so we can take all these numbers and present them in a way that help the people that are trying to read our study understand about the data. You might want to use box and whisker plot. You may want to do something else with your data, and it really depends on your data. As you can see, my data was very close together. I had the minimum was 32, the max was 34, and my average worked out to be exactly 33, not even with a decimal. Just do whatever your situation deems appropriate. So for submission 3, at this point you have to decide what is your inferential statistic that you're going to do. In my case, you may recall my problem said I want to just find out, do the cookies actually weigh 33 grams? Do 3 cookies weigh 33 grams? So in my particular case, that's going to require a t-test. So you'll want to use, I already have entered my data, so you click Stat and you go over to Tests, and so I'm going to choose t-test. But again, you may have a 2-sample t-test on your case, or you may have a proportion that you've been doing a study about. Or you may have some interval. Maybe you want to present the information as a confidence interval. In fact, I may do that as well here just to see what those numbers would be. But for now, I'm going to do a t-test. I have the data is input on the list 1. My null hypothesis is that the cookies weigh 33 grams. And my data is in list 1. And every data point on the list has a frequency of 1, which is what that implies. And again, my alternative hypothesis is going to test that my mean is not equal to 33. Not that it's less than or not that it's greater than. I'm going to be not equal to. And we'll click calculate. And as you see, when we do our test, I have t equals 0, which means that I have a p-value of 1. In my case, since I'm trying to prove that it's not equal to 33 and it was in fact dead equal to 33, this p-value is as high as it possibly can be, which means that no, the mean weight of these cookies is exactly 33. And so I have not been able to reject my null hypothesis and accept my alternative hypothesis. And so these will be my conclusions, and these are the things that we'll state. We'll use those words that we learn in the later chapters. There is insufficient evidence to reject the claim that 3 cookies weigh 33 grams. Is one way of stating that. That's one of the ways we make the conclusion here. So hopefully this little example here gives you an idea of what's required to do this project. And of course there needs to be a lot more information. I'm trying to give you the bare minimum so you can see how to start and how to progress. And you can see that this is a really simple thing, but if you do get stuck, absolutely ask me at any time. And good luck.